Welcome to the Debrief, where we talk to the Washington Examiner's top journalists about the headlines they're covering this week and where the story's going next. I'm Jim Antle. I'm joined today by commentary editor Conn Carroll. Democrats in disarray. It's a frequent theme that we hear here in Washington, but there does seem to be some divisions in the Democratic Party over how to deal with the influx at the border, especially now that we have some Republican governors busing migrants into blue cities, often advertising themselves as sanctuary cities, and now that they're facing some of the strain on social services, they would like to see President Biden do something about it, these Democratic mayors. So what are they saying?
Most recently you had Mayor Bowser right here in D.C.
Mm-hmm.
Their homeless shelters are being filled up,
right.
Food kitchens, all the rest of it. They're just overwhelmed. And so she asked Biden, because she's not a governor, she has to get permission from the Department of Defense to mobilize the D.C. National Guard. So she wanted to not only mobilize the D.C. National Guard, but like use a nearby army base to help house and keep these migrants until they could be find a permanent residence.
Right.
This request was denied by the Biden administration. And not only was it denied, but there was a lot of immigration activists who then attacked Mayor Bowser for feeding into this Republican attack on Biden's immigration policies. And so here you have a Democratic mayor that's trying to do right by our city, trying to make sure that their social services are not overwhelmed, but all the activists and the Biden administration are just saying, tough luck, deal with it.
So I mean, the optics and the messaging behind this are kind of interesting because you have, in many cases, these cities are advertising themselves as a friendly place for migrants to go. Migrants actually go there, they start to raise objections. Obviously, there's the element of Republican involvement in this, and they the White House keeps saying that the governors are using the migrants as political pawns, but there is a degree to which it brings home the argument that it's okay for border towns to have to deal with these pressures, but not us.
Right, so I mean, let's talk numbers here. So the governor of Texas is busing migrants from Texas up to Washington, D.C. He started in April, and since April, so that's about 3 months, he's bused so far 6,000 migrants from Texas to D.C. Now, to put that number in perspective, over that same 3-month time span, the Biden administration has caught and released almost 300,000 migrants into Texas.
Right.
So 6,000 is just a very small percentage of what his state and all these border towns are putting up with on a monthly basis. And over his entire presidency, Biden has caught and again released. This is not just caught. This is caught, processed, and released into the United States 1.3 million migrants. That's a larger population than 9 states.
So the Biden administration has seemed to be pretty responsive to activists on the immigration issue, despite some of the political complexities of it. Do you agree with that, and what do you attribute that to?
I mean, that's the direction the party is going. I mean, when you had all of them on the stage during the primaries, and they asked, raise your hand, who would decriminalize crossing the border, everyone raised their hand, actually, but Biden, right? So that shows that, his instincts are more, we can't go further and open up the border even more, but clearly the activist elitists in this party, that's where they want to go.
Right. So finally, you've written about something that the federal government could do to lower rent prices. I mean, we're talking about maybe we're at a point where inflation is starting to cool off, but prices in a lot of sectors are very high. Rent is certainly one of them. Is there something that we could do to sort of alleviate some of that pressure?
Sure. So inflation has leveled off, but not in rents. Rents raises are still rising. And of course, very simple supply and demand. If you want to lower rent, we need is more housing. And so one way we can do that is to, Senator Mike Lee from Utah has delivered a clever way, is that the federal government owns close to half of all land in the western United States.
Right.
And in some states like Utah, it's even worse. It's like 65%.
Right.
When you look at Idaho, also 65%. Oregon, 50%. Colorado, 50%. And not all of this land is super rural land. A lot of it is within a single mile of city boundaries. And so what his bill would auction off land, public land that was within a mile of a city border for housing. And so once you have people being able to build more houses, you have more housing stock, rents would come down.
Thank you, Conn.
Absolutely.
You can read Conn and the rest of our commentary team's coverage at washingtonexaminer.com.